The silent arena, the galactic arena, floated around a dying star, glowing faintly in the endless dark of space. It was the heart of entertainment and politics for the galaxy, where powerful empires gathered not just to trade, but also to show their military might. Thousands of alien species filled the colossal stands, their voices mixing into a constant roar of excitement. The air buzzed with anticipation. Something big was promised today. High above, massive banners of different alien factions waved. Holograms lit the sky inside the dome, replaying highlights of past battles, ships clashing, fleets burning, champions falling. The arena was more than a show. It was a reminder of power. Every empire came here to prove they were still strong. But tonight, something was different. In the command booth, the arena overseer, a tall insectoid creature with crystal-like eyes, tapped its claws nervously. The schedule had been tight, carefully planned. The Turok fleet was supposed to reveal their new warship at this hour. But the docking bay remained empty, and the bay doors had not opened. The overseer hissed into the comms. "Where is the ship?" The crowd grows restless. No answer came, only static. The alien audience began to murmur, shifting in their seats. Some of them shouted in confusion, others whispered about sabotage. The entire arena suddenly felt colder, as if space itself had crept inside. Then, without warning, the giant docking bay at the far side of the arena began to move. The heavy blast doors groaned as they opened, releasing a cloud of ancient dust and frozen gas. A silence fell across the arena. Even the holograms cut out as though the system itself was holding its breath. The overseer froze, its crystal eyes wide. "This is not on the schedule," it whispered. From the dark void beyond the doors, a shadow began to form. At first it was only a silhouette, massive, angular, and silent. The aliens leaned forward, their eyes glowing in curiosity. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Whose ship is that? Which empire dares to steal this moment?" The shape grew larger, pushing into the light. Its surface was blackened and scarred, as though it had seen centuries of battle. Along its hull, strange blue lines flickered faintly, pulsing like veins of light. An old merchant, one of the elder reptilian races, gasped and clutched his chest. His voice trembled as he spoke words many thought were extinct. "No, it cannot be. That design, that steel, it is human." The crowd erupted. "Impossible," shouted one alien noble. "They are extinct," cried another. "The humans were wiped out centuries ago." The overseer barked into the comms again, desperate for control. "Identify that vessel, scan it." But the scanners failed. The readings came back in chaos, filled with errors and warnings. The arena's strongest systems could not even understand the energy source inside the ship. The ship kept moving, slow and steady, like a beast waking from a long sleep. Its hull stretched across the bay, dwarfing every alien ship that had ever entered. The silence grew heavier, pressing on every spectator, making their hearts pound faster. Inside the private viewing chambers, alien generals and kings sat in shock. Memories stirred. Old war stories whispered through their minds, stories of humanity, of battles fought long ago. They had thought humans were gone, erased by time and war. Yet here, before their eyes, stood a ghost made of steel. The ship's lights flared suddenly, blinding bright for a moment. Then it spoke. A deep rumble echoed through the arena, not from speakers, but directly into every mind present. It was not words at first, only a vibration like the growl of an ancient predator. The crowd froze, every alien instinct screaming danger. Then came a single phrase. "Humanity awakens." The arena shook. Spectators screamed, some in awe, others in terror. The overseer stumbled back, its claws trembling against the console. Across the galaxy, through live feeds, billions of viewers watched in stunned silence. The impossible had happened. The humans were back, and they had brought a battleship. The awakening of Steel the Arena had fallen into a silence so deep it felt unnatural. Not a single alien dared to breathe too loudly as the massive ship finished sliding into the light. Its shadow stretched across the entire viewing dome, swallowing smaller vessels in its presence. The hull was jagged, scarred from ancient battles, but beneath the damage, there was no weakness, only strength. Blue lines glowed across the armor, pulsating like living veins. The ship seemed alive, as if it had a heart that had been beating quietly for centuries, waiting for this moment. The overseer's claws rattled against the command console. Its voice trembled, breaking the silence. Confirm the identity of that vessel. Run a full scan. Technicians rushed to obey. Screens filled with data, then crashed into static. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits. The arena's finest machines, capable of tracking black holes and stellar storms, could not understand what they were seeing. It is impossible, whispered a scientist from the Kelith race, his long tendrils twitching nervously. The energy is older than our entire system, older than this star itself. The murmurs spread again through the crowd. Curiosity mixed with fear. Every alien species present had grown up on stories of humanity. For some, humans were monsters. For others, they were legends. But all agreed on one thing: humanity was gone. They had vanished in the fires of war long ago, yet here was proof, an artifact of their power moving alive. Then the ship's engines roared. The sound was not ordinary. It was a deep metallic thunder that rattled bones and shook the arena's very walls. Many covered their ears, but it did no good. The vibration pressed directly into their bodies, into their minds. The massive vessel rotated slowly, revealing its profile. The markings on its side came into full view. Ancient human letters, scarred but unbroken, carved into the steel. HSF Invictus. The word meant nothing to most aliens, but to those who remembered history, it was a name filled with dread. The Invictus had been the flagship of humanity's last war, a battleship that vanished when humans disappeared, a ship spoken of in hushed whispers as the weapon that nearly turned the galaxy upside down. One alien noble, his face pale and trembling, leaned back in his seat. If this ship still lives, then perhaps humanity does too. The overseer's panic grew. Send security patrols. Contain this thing before it destabilizes the arena. But before a single order could be carried out, the ship's surface began to change. The glowing lines along its hull brightened, spreading outward like rivers of fire. Slowly, the entire battleship lit up, piece by piece. Cannons rose from hidden compartments. Towers unfolded, weapons aligning into position. Shield arrays shimmered, creating a faint bubble of blue around the ship. It was waking up. Gasps echoed through the audience. The arena's atmosphere was charged with terror and fascination. The Invictus was not a ruin, not a relic. It was alive, fully operational. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the battleship, scanning across the arena stands. The beam carried no heat, no damage, but wherever it touched, alien translators activated, forcing every mind to understand what came next. A deep human voice filled the arena, calm, cold, unmistakably alive. Human battleship Invictus, online. Awakening protocol complete. The crowd froze. Many had never heard a human voice before. It was unlike theirs, firm, commanding, carrying a weight that pressed against the soul. Even the bravest warlords shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The overseer tried to bark a reply, but its voice cracked. Identify yourself. Who controls this vessel? The reply was simple, chilling. We are humanity. We have returned. The entire arena erupted into chaos. Some shouted in disbelief, some screamed in fear, while others fell to their knees as if witnessing the arrival of gods. But one thing was certain. Every alien in that chamber felt it in their bones. Humanity was not dead. Humanity was watching. The Invictus released another pulse, stronger this time. Energy surged through the arena, causing smaller ships docked nearby to lose power. Holograms flickered, shields failed. The entire station shuddered as if it were nothing more than fragile glass in the presence of something far greater. Inside private chambers, Alien rulers debated in panic. This cannot be real. If humanity is alive, everything changes. We must prepare for war, but none of them dared move against the ship. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most powerful beings felt powerless. The ship's lights dimmed for a moment, then surged brighter. Cannons locked into place, pointing not at the arena, but outward, toward the stars. It was as if the Invictus was not here to attack them, but to send a message. And the message was clear. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity had been waiting. The arena's silence returned heavier this time. Billions of galactic citizens watching the live broadcast leaned closer to their screens. None dared blink. None dared look away. The overseer's claws shook as it whispered, the words everyone else was too afraid to say aloud. The awakening has begun. Echoes of fear. The words still rang inside the arena. We are humanity. We have returned. Every spectator, every ruler, every mercenary sat frozen, unable to escape the weight of that voice. The battleship hung in the docking bay like a mountain of steel, glowing with life. Its presence pressed against them, making even the most powerful beings feel small. In the private chamber of the Dravic warlord, silence reigned. His 4 crimson eyes stared at the ship without blinking. Memories clawed their way back into his mind. Memories he had buried for centuries. He had been a young soldier then, fighting on the edges of human territory. He remembered the humans not for their numbers, not for their technology, but for their will. They fought with desperation, turning scrap metal into weapons, turning defeat into victory. The warlord's chest tightened as he recalled the last time he had seen a human ship. It was burning, torn apart, but still it fired until the very end. The thought made his armored skin crawl. They should not exist, he whispered. They should not be here. Elsewhere, a counselor from the Valari Confederacy gripped her, staff so tightly her hands shook. The Valari archives told ancient stories of the siege of Carthos, when human fleets had turned the tide with impossible tactics. The humans had been outnumbered 3-1, but somehow, through cunning traps and sheer stubbornness, they had broken an empire. Entire fleets had vanished into firestorms of human design. Her people had never forgotten. They still used the phrase Carthos Gambit when teaching military history. Now the ghosts of that past stood before her, alive, breathing through steel. The whispers spread like fire through the arena. Is this the end of us? One alien muttered. No. Maybe they are here to save us, said another, trembling. Or to destroy us again, a third hissed. The overseer tried to bring order, but its commands were drowned in the noise. The crowd had become a sea of fear and awe, every alien torn between running and watching. The Invictus pulsed with light again, sending out another wave of energy. The hum resonated deep inside every creature, vibrating through bone and flesh. It was not just sound, it was a heartbeat, a slow, heavy rhythm that made it feel as though the arena itself was alive. Some aliens covered their ears, others clutched their chests. A few collapsed under the weight of that vibration. In one corner of the stands, an elder merchant with scales as white as ash muttered in a shaky voice. I knew it. The stories were true. The humans built guardians, ships that would not die, only sleep. Ships that would awaken if their species ever returned. The idea spread instantly. Fear grew sharper. If one has awakened, how many more are waiting? The overseer slammed a claw against the console, trying to silence the rising panic. Enough. We must establish communication. If this ship is human, then its masters must show themselves. But even as it spoke, many knew the truth. The ship itself was the master. The Invictus rotated slightly, its massive cannons gliding into alignment. Not a single barrel pointed at the arena directly, yet everyone felt threatened. It was like standing in the shadow of a predator. Whether or not it chose to strike was no longer in their hands. Inside the control towers of the arena, technicians panicked as screens filled with human symbols. They tried to fight the intrusion, but the ship had already seized control. Holograms across the dome flickered, shifting from alien propaganda to human images. First came Earth. Blue oceans, green forests, sprawling cities of glass and steel. The crowd gasped, seeing a world they thought burned to ashes. Then came the faces of humans, soldiers in battered armor, engineers in workshops, families standing strong against fire. These were not images of weakness. They were reminders of resilience. Finally, the hologram showed fleets of ships, hundreds, thousands. Their designs were varied, crude and elegant, fierce and desperate. Some were likely long gone, yet the sight made every alien ruler shiver. If even a fraction of those vessels remained, the galaxy was no longer safe. The arena erupted again, louder than before. "We cannot fight this," shouted one noble. "We must flee," cried another. "Perhaps we must bow," whispered a merchant, trembling. The overseer leaned against the console, its crystal eyes reflecting the human fleet. Its voice cracked. "This is no performance, no illusion. This is a warning." In the shadows of the arena, one question burned in every mind. Who had awakened the Invictus, and why now? The challenge. The arena trembled under the weight of whispers. Fear had spread like fire, but fear alone was not enough to silence pride. Among the galaxy's countless species, there were always those too arrogant to bow, too proud, to accept weakness. In the highest balcony, the noble crest of the Kraylock Dominion shimmered in blood-red light. Their ships filled half the docking spires of the arena, bristling with weapons. The Kraylock were conquerors, feared across sectors for their ruthless fleets and savage discipline. Their war chief rose from his seat, his armor gleaming like molten iron. His voice, amplified by command channels, thundered across the chamber. "Spectators of the galaxy, do not tremble before a ghost. This is nothing more than a relic of the past, an empty shell awakened by tricks. Humanity is dust. Their time is over. We will show you the truth." The crowd gasped. Even in their terror, some clung to the war chiefs, words desperate for reassurance. The overseer's mandibles clicked nervously, but it said nothing. All eyes turned back to the colossal vessel in the bay. The war chief raised a clawed hand, and the Kraylock fleet responded. Dozens of warships detached from the docking rings, their engines igniting in unison. Like a pack of predators, they moved to surround the Invictus. The arena shook with the force of their engines. Cannons charged, glowing with lethal energy. Shields shimmered around them in perfect formation. The sight was impressive, an empire's pride displayed for all to see. A nervous murmur rippled through the spectators. Could it be true? Was the human battleship truly just an empty husk? Could even the legendary Invictus stand against a modern fleet? Inside the stands, some aliens leaned forward eagerly. Others shook their heads in dread. The memory of humanity's past still weighed heavily on them, but perhaps the war chief was right. The overseer slammed its claws on the console. "Stop, you cannot fire within the arena, this is madness." But the Kraylock ignored the command. The war chief sneered, his voice echoing through every channel. "Witness, galaxy, witness as the Kraylock Dominion crushes the last human dream." Cannons locked on target. Energy hummed in the air, vibrating through the arena's walls. The spectators held their breath. And then, the Invictus moved. Not with speed, not with violence, but with authority. Its blue lines blazed brighter, pulsing in perfect rhythm. A low hum rippled out from the battleship, a wave of energy so deep, it shook the very soul. The Kraylock ships shuddered, lights flickered, weapons faltered. One by one, their cannons went dark, their engines sputtered, their shields collapsed. The mighty fleet, proud and prepared, now drifted helplessly in the void. Gasps tore through the arena. The Kraylock spectators cried out in disbelief. The war chief's face twisted in rage, but even he stumbled back as his fleet hung powerless, trapped in silence. The Invictus did not fire a single shot. It had no need to. Instead, its voice returned, heavy and calm, pressing into every mind. Do not test us. Thy words were simple, but the weight behind them crushed all defiance. Every alien felt it. The difference between their fleets and this ship was not technology alone. It was something deeper, something older. The war chief roared in fury, but his voice shook. Coward's trick. This proves nothing. The ship responded. A sudden burst of holograms spread across the arena once more. This time, not of Earth, not of fleets, but of human soldiers. Men and women, young and old, standing side by side. Their eyes burned with determination. They carried weapons, yes, but their power came from something else. Unity, resilience, defiance. The message was clear. Humanity's strength had never been just its machines. It was its spirit. The crowd fell silent, trapped between awe and terror. For the first time in centuries, alien empires realized their weapons, their power, their pride meant nothing against this force. The overseer collapsed into its seat, whispering to itself, "This is no battle. This is a judgment." The Kraylock fleet drifted helpless, powerless before the Invictus. The war chief's bravado crumbled, his rage empty. He sank back into his seat, defeated not by fire, but by fear. The Invictus's lights dimmed slightly, its cannons lowering. It had proven its point. It did not need to destroy. It only needed to remind. The arena sat in stunned silence. Billions of spectators across the galaxy leaned closer to their screens, unable to look away. One thought echoed across every mind, unspoken yet shared. If this was only one ship, what else had humanity left behind, waiting in the dark? The message the Kraylock fleet still floated powerless, their once proud ships now drifting like toys in a storm. The arena was deathly silent. No one spoke. No one dared to breathe too loud. Billions across the galaxy, watching the broadcast, leaned closer to their screens. The Invictus stood motionless in the bay, its blue lines pulsing steadily like the heartbeat of a giant. For a moment it looked almost patient, as if it was waiting for the galaxy to finally understand. Then, the silence broke. A deep human voice filled the arena again. But this time, it was not cold or commanding. It was calm, heavy with memory. "We are not here for war." The words rippled through every spectator, sinking deep into their minds. Relief flickered in some eyes. Suspicion burned in others. "We do not seek to rule. We do not seek to conquer. But know this." The ship's cannons rotated slowly, locking outward toward the stars beyond the station. Its shields flared, a glowing sphere of power that swallowed the bay. The very air inside the arena seemed to vibrate with the force of the message. If humanity is ever threatened again, if the galaxy dares to raise its hand against us, then you will remember this day. The lights of the Invictus blazed brighter than before, flooding the arena in a searing blue glow. For a heartbeat, it was as if every alien was standing under a sun that belonged only to humans. And then the holograms returned. Not fleets this time, not soldiers, but people, families, children running across green fields, engineers building, starships from scrap, farmers smiling in the dirt of their fields, ordinary humans. The message was unmistakable. Humanity's power had never been about weapons alone. It was about the will to endure, the will to rise, no matter how many times they were struck down. Spectators wept openly, some from fear, some from awe, a few from hope. In the overseer's chamber, the insectoid's claws trembled. For the first time in its long career, it felt truly small. Its crystal eyes reflected the images of human faces, and it whispered in disbelief. They never died. They waited. The war chief of the Kraylock slumped in his throne, his pride shattered. His voice was barely a whisper. If one ship can do this, how many more still sleep in the dark? The Invictus gave no answer. Instead, its engines flared with impossible energy. The docking bay shook violently, alarms screaming across the arena as the ship prepared to leave. With a slow, majestic movement, the battleship turned toward the stars. One last time, Its voice echoed into every soul. Humanity endures, remember that. And then, with a thunderous boom, the Invictus vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only silence and fear. The arena's spectators sat frozen, staring at the empty bay. Billions of viewers across the galaxy whispered the same thought, the same chilling question that spread faster than light. If one human battleship has awakened, how many more are waiting to rise? The galaxy would never sleep the same again.